Welcome back to the Trading Post. It's me, Fred, and of course you know the superstar, good old Noodle. Tell him hi, Noodle. Tell him hi, buddy. Tell him we got a good one for him this time, don't we? Huh? Yeah, we always try to give him good stuff, don't we, buddy? Okay. Anyways, you guys, we got a good legend here for you. This is one of the local legends. This is episode 2, and it's the legend of Betty Knox. Now, I hope you guys are entertained with this one because it's definitely an interesting story. It's really interesting. It's really good. So, y'all stay tuned and hang into the end because I'm sure you're going to like this one. This is a really good one. Isn't it, Noodle? Tell them hang in there, ain't it, buddy? Tell them to hang in there, right? That's it. That's right. All right, we'll be back. All right, everybody, this is, as I said prior with Noodle, this is Local Legends Episode 2, The Legend of Betty Knox. The legend of Betty Knox between Ohiopyle and Dunbar, Pennsylvania, in Fayette County, is a belt of rock-crested ridges, tumbling streams, and abandoned hill farms known to locals, the Dunbar Mountains. In earlier times, the rugged land demanded rugged inhabitants, an independent lot who could carve out a life where more timid souls would scarcely visit. Since the 1700s, they dragged a living in the form of timber from the hollow, dug veins of coal from the mines, and hoed corn and buckwheat on hillsides so steep that, according to old-timers, seeds were planted by blasting them uphill from shotguns. Naturally, such a place spawned its share of folklore. Most of the stories that told of the struggles of various individuals against the hardships of mountain life. Miles walked, tons loaded, acres cleared, and game trapped or killed are common themes. Over the years, as in much of America, most of the stories have been lost. They have faded from local cultures as lifestyles modernized, with TV and internet replacing communal storytelling as entertainment. Now, some of the stories survive now only in the dim childhood memories of the oldest residents. One story will not die. The story is the legend of Betty Knox. Okay? Betty Knox was born in 1862 on a rough mountain farm at Kentuck Knob, overlooking the great gorge of the Youghiogheny in what is now known as Ohiopyle State Park. Sickness came often and early among the mountain families. When Betty was 3 years old, her mother died, leaving the little girl to be raised by her father. Betty grew into a strong and willing worker, and her father depended on her to help with the heavy works as if she were a son. The work was hard and never-ending, a daily and seasonal cycle that had to be completed. There was clearing, plowing, planting, hoeing, and harvest. In the fall and winter, wood was cut for building, fuel, and cooking. Betty became skilled at handling livestock and daily drove their team of oxen in the fields and woods. When she was 17, her father was killed in a timber cutting accident. Betty buried him on Kentuck Knob and was all alone on her mountain. Being an uncommonly beautiful young woman with long auburn hair and sky blue eyes, she was pursued by all the young men who lived in the lonely hollows surrounding Kentuck. But Betty resisted all their advances, perhaps in hopes of someday meeting some special stranger from far away. To make a living for herself, Betty began to haul grain on oxback for other farmers around Kentuck and Ohiopyle. She led the ox northwest over the mountains to Grist Mill in Ferguson Hollow, just outside of Dunbar. She began each journey at daybreak and soon established a well-worn path still discernible to this day. By nightfall, she had completed her 25-mile round trip and returned the grain as flour. Other evidence of Betty's life still exists. A level piece of bottom land where her route crossed the Dunbar Creek is still known as Betty Knox Park. And nearby, still usable, is a spring she improved by deepening it and lining its sides with creek stones. Its crystal clear waters offered refreshment on each trip over the mountains. One evening in 1862, during the second autumn of the Civil War, she met along the trail a soldier who had deserted the Union Army in West Virginia, still Virginia and officially Confederate territory at that time. The young man was badly wounded and racked by fever. Delirious, he had wandered north to this lonely spot in the forest. Betty took the soldier to her cabin, hid him from the army, and nursed his wounds. She became completely devoted to her soldier, to the point that she began to fear his recovery, lest he leave her alone once more. His wounds and their complications proved fatal, and after more than a year of tireless nursing, the soldier died. Betty buried him on Kentuck Knob near her father. Not too long ago, there were old-timers who knew the approximate whereabouts of the graves. But after his death, Betty and the ox returned to their trips over the ridges, transporting many tons of grain and flour. Their travels became quite familiar to people of the settlement growing up around the mill, especially during the peak of the grain harvest, when Betty and the ox, loaded down with grain sacks, would emerge from the woods every day. Though she was a frequent customer at the mill, she never socialized. All right. She kept to herself, speaking only enough to accomplish her errand before heading back into the forest. Still, the locals felt fondly toward the woman. They admired her independent way of life and respected her physical stamina. Sometime during the year of 1878, Betty Knox's trips came to a sudden halt. Grain piled up in the log barns, and the folks around the mill quickly noticed the absence of the long-haired woman and her ox. Some feared she was ill, resting at her cabin, but when a group of farmers failed to find her there, search parties were formed. Her neighbors combed the hills between Dunbar and Ohiopyle, looking for Betty or some clue to her disappearance. They found neither. A few said that she had been killed by wolves or a panther, which were still plentiful at that time. Others maintained that she had simply grown weary of her lonely routine and left the area. The mystery grew stranger. Still, the following spring, some children gathering wild ramps and morels made a ghastly discovery. Okay? A ghastly discovery. Chained to a tree near the spring that Betty improved was the skeleton of an ox. The find was especially strange because the intense search for only a few months before had centered on that very place. No trace of the ox had been seen at that time, and stranger still, Betty had never been known to use a chain to lead it. To this day, no other clues have been found, and the fate of Betty Knox has never been revealed. The legend is an old one, and like the rest of the mountain stories, it isn't told as frequently as it once was. Sometimes years go by without any direct mention of the stalwart young woman who hauled grain along through the country, avoided by most men. But always it seems, when the legend grows so dim that it nearly vanishes, as sure as the woman who inspired it, strange occurrences are reported. Visiting deer hunters, turkey hunters, and fishermen alike from all over have told of a pale feminine figure flickering through the trees before daylight. Young couples out for a late night drive have claimed to have heard the mournful lulling of oxen miles from the nearest farm. And strangest of all, on some dark nights, when a damp breeze oozes out of the heart of the mountains and stirs bogs of ancient hemlocks standing along Dunbar Creek, the pained voice of a young man young man can be made out whispering, Betty Knox, Betty Knox. To find Betty Knox, park on a starry night, travel past Stefano Printing toward Ohio Pile, turn right at the Game Commission shed onto the dirt road, bearing right for less than 1/8 of a mile. Stop and listen carefully. The rumors say her restless ghost has been seen and heard, as well as her fallen soldier's ghost as well. Now, what is your opinions on this, you guys? What do you think? This is a pretty cool story as far as it goes, in my opinion. It's sad, but to know that there's interactions of people that have seen these apparitions and heard them, it's quite interesting. As a matter of fact, I've actually been to Betty Knox quite a lot. It was up around where I used to live. So this story kind of hit me a little bit harder because it was kind of a local legend from around where I was at. So yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, she was a tough woman. You have to give her a lot of credit. Doing all the things that she did. Living on a mountain is not easy. And back then, by any means, it was definitely not easy. Everything was by hand. It was all manual labor, back-breaking work. It's not like nowadays where you have chainsaws and you have this and you have that. No, you had axes and you had, you probably, I don't think they might have, it probably had hand saws, as far as I can tell. That, 1862 or something like that? Yeah, they probably had hand saws. So, I mean, but by God, those saws, it takes 2 people to run one of them just to cut them big trees down. So think about that. This woman was tough. She had grit that you don't see in the world today, that's for sure. But anyways, it's a sad thing that she disappeared, and there's no trace of her. Evidently they never found her remains. They never found any evidence of it. I mean, obviously, the only thing they found was the skeleton of the ox. And why in the hell was it chained to the tree? Or why was it chained to the tree with chains? That's freaking odd. It was very odd. Now, if you guys have any comments or anything, throw them down below, okay? And if you have any local legends of your own from where you're at, anywhere in the world, these are all local legends from wherever, okay? I want you guys to interact. If there's something interesting that you want to have thrown on here, there's a legend that you know of that I don't or whatever, send me an email at the Trading Post 8124@gmail.com. Or, you can throw it in the comments. However you choose to do so. All right? But I hope you guys enjoyed this story because it was interesting. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've been around that area. I was around that area for quite some time. And honestly, this is the first I've heard of this legend, to be honest with you. It's amazing. It's, this poor woman, she was strong, absolutely strong. And, it's sad because it's kind of like a love story where, she met somebody and the poor guy was injured and ended up dying on her, and she just didn't want to be alone. She kind of really took a liking to this guy. It's heartbreaking in that sense, And then she continued to pick up and carry on where she left off after he died. But what in the hell happened to her, you guys? Do you think it was wild animals? I mean, do you think that's what it was? Wolves or a panther or a mountain lion or whatever? All those could be possible, but why in the hell was the ox chained to a tree? And she never chained him. Or her, chained him. So, that begs the question, why the strange circumstances with the ox and the ox's skeleton? Really leaves pause for thought. Because if they already did the investigation, they did the search, and that was the very place that they based the search off of. So they were there. Okay? So it had to have been within that few, I don't know, what is it, a few months time in between from the search when it led up to the time that those kids found that skeleton. That's weird, man. That's really odd. But who knows, maybe one day, you guys, I'll take a trip up there and we can go up there late at night or something, and we can try and see if we can spot Betty Knox or her soldier. Maybe see if we can catch a recording of anything making noises or something. If you're interested in that and you want us to do that, throw it in the comments down below. Let us know, because we will do it. Okay? It's about you guys and what you're interested in, what you want. Okay? But I really hope you guys was happy with this episode. I really am, because, wow, what a story. What a legend. And my heart goes out to the woman, that's sad. She had a very hard, long life. Lost her mother at 3 years old. Lost her dad at 17. And continued to work. Doing that type of work just to survive then. Wow. That woman had a fortitude that you just can't, I couldn't imagine it. You couldn't imagine it. She was definitely I would say she's comparable to Marine Special Forces or Navy SEAL or anything like that. She was tough. And there's no way you can deny that. No way at all. It had been a long, lonely life. Long, lonely life. So, my hat's off to her and all her efforts and everything she did. And, who knows? Who knows? Maybe down the road. I mean, hey, if any of you guys listening in are from that area or you're around there and you want to go, go do some investigating. Look around. Who knows? Maybe you might find it. You may find her remains, or probably not clothing by now. By God, it's been how long? But, I mean, hey, I don't think it's too far from the realm of reason. Somehow you may be able to find something. It may have gotten snagged on a tree or something, and the tree grew up around the cloth, protecting it. You end up cutting a tree down or whatever, and there you go. Maybe you might find some of her clothing. You never know. Some of the strangest shit has happened that you can't explain, and it's unbelievable. But anyways, you guys, I love you guys. Trading Post family. Like I said, if you ever want to throw anything out, and if you don't want to do it in the comments and you want to be more private about whatever you have to say or whatever you would like me to do, just email me, okay? There's no criticism in here, okay? I know I do comedy skits and stuff like that. Some people may not like certain comedy skits or whatever that I do, but that's fine. Everybody has their interests. Everybody has their likes and dislikes. We're all human, and that's what makes us unique. We're all different in our own way. But I appreciate all of you that's out there listening in, that tune into my channel and try to maybe learn a little something, maybe have a little laugh, whatever it may be. But we're going to do a variety of things, and you know that. You already know from what I've done so far, if you've watched any of these. But you guys, wow. That was a good story. It was a really good story. And I thank you guys again for tuning in. And like I said, this here is Local Legends Episode 2, The Legend of Betty Knox. You guys be safe out there. Live your life. Love like there's no tomorrow. Because you're never promised tomorrow. Okay? Anyways, you guys have a good one. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.